Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm Gavin Bolch and my guest is Denise den-Bakker. Welcome again, Denise.
Thank you, Gavin. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, now I believe that you've got a website up and running. Tell us about it, give us its name and what's on it.
Okay, well, first of all, I don't take credit for that, but I'm very pleased to pass on the news that Hope Alive Australia is up and running, thanks to Professor Ney and Mount Joy College in Canada. That's
excellent. And for folks who want to go to it, there are some stories that you've been able to capture, real stories.
Yes.
So what's the hope that you're bringing?
The main message is that everyone can feel a whole lot better, particularly people struggling, who've experienced loss, grief, perhaps childhood mistreatment, even abuse and neglect. They're not nice things to talk about, but as Dr. Ney has said to us, Dr. Philip Ney, he's shared a lot of his wisdom, and that's helped me a lot personally. But he's pretty well told us that just about everybody has some form of traumatic loss and some degree of, abuse, neglect, not intentional by anybody, but it's just a sad reality, part of life.
Because we're not perfect?
Yeah, exactly.
And we communicate imperfectly at the best of times?
Yes, yeah, very true. I think with Hope Alive, I think it brought me a great deal of comfort to actually realise, and I think this is what it brings to a lot of people who are really struggling with some of the experiences, particularly traumatic experiences they've had in their own lives. And you come to realise that more than being not alone, you're actually sharing a journey with a lot of other people. And Hope Alive is a program which is a group therapy approach, and it's really amazing. It's unique. There's nothing like it in the world, we understand, where it's actually measurable, and it's actually been scientifically proven. That's why I'm holding the pieces of paper here, but it is the only program of its kind where childhood mistreatment, abuse, neglect and pregnancy loss have all been shown before, during and after to improve the outcomes, and I mean real life outcomes, for people to actually feel happier, to realise that life can be a lot better, and to have a lot of simple things happen. A lot of people, when they undertake the program, if they're a bit overweight, they tend to perhaps finish having lost a little bit of weight, or if they're underweight, they actually tend to have put on a bit of weight. That's one of the remarkable features of it, and I think one of the other remarkable features is this ethic of mutual benefit for everybody involved in the program, and I'm a testimony, to that.
That's right, because you did the course before you were trained.
Yes, I did.
How long did the course take, and then how long and how much training did you do? Right.
Well, I travelled to Perth, Western Australia, at the invitation of a very special friend. It was a 1 week intensive, 60 hours live-in, but the Hope Alive program in its entirety is 30 weeks, where we go through a whole series of journey, beginning from where we began our family tree, and a very long journey with people who, in an environment of confidentiality, we journey with, to actually become a completely different person internally.
A little bit like Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, isn't it? There's a fellowship that get together for a common purpose. There's some difficulties to go through on the journey, but it is a journey.
It certainly is. It can be quite intense, and that's one of the really wonderful things about the program. where we make a commitment. We're fully informed about everything. And unlike a lot of things in life, we're actually told what the program involves. We are informed by the group's leader that it won't be easy, that there'll be a lot of hard work and even homework that we'll do through the course of the program. But, you know, through that time, there's a lot of support along the way.
So do you think that the Westerner, which we are, expects quick results without much effort, and this challenges that a little bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of us expect or hope anything would be quick in life. But of course, when there's a lifetime of perhaps damage, hurts, traumatic experiences, I think all of us knows deep down that there's not really the possibility that we can journey through these sorts of things and have some sort of resolution, some sort of hope.
Okay, so what we need to process simply is, if I commit to this, it's for my well-being, and that I will come out of the program a better, more well person.
Absolutely. I think one of the most important things is even improved memory, so that when we have an opportunity to listen, particularly being in the group situation, we might have had some events happen, traumatic events, that might have been forgotten, and that happens when we go through difficult times in life. The benefit I found of sitting in a group is actually on hearing other people's experiences. Sometimes that will trigger a thought, and for me, I found that really helpful, because then memories start coming back. And then once you're aware of those memories or events that have taken place, then you can actually start talking about them and making some sense of them.
Well, Denise, I hope that what you've said will trigger some thoughts. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Bolch, and my guest is Denise den-Bakker. And we have hoped that some thoughts were triggered in people's minds. We're going to kind of help them a little bit. You've got a paper in front of you. What would you like to share with our audience?
Yeah, there's a lot I'd like to share, and of course we're time limited. But I think some of the really important things that, you know, and again with my own memory problems at times, but I really would love to share with other people is the fact that they are, if they're experiencing being alone, perhaps fearful and sad and feeling guilt, even possibly feeling trapped, maybe dependent on medication to get through each day, and even possibly find that that's been worsening. Going through Hope Alive can really make a difference, and all of those things can either reduce if they're not good things, or they can actually experience something very simple, which is actually just enjoyment of life. I think that is probably the main thing that I hope to convey as a result of this program, because a lot of people have experienced, and I know more than anything else, pregnancy loss. It could be miscarriage or abortion. It's not really the point how the pregnancy is lost. And I know that this is affecting a lot of people. You know, perinatal mental health is a major issue everywhere. But for women, really one of the most important and not heard things is that they're not always responsible for these things happening on their own. And what is insane is in doing this program, we went through the idea of people and feelings of guilt and apportioning, say, responsibility for the loss of a pregnancy, and even going through a simple exercise like that, you know, we come to realise that there are so many other people involved who perhaps could have helped or supported us in a lost pregnancy. It could have been, a mum or dad. It could have been, a trusted friend. It could have been parents, other family, brother, sister. It could be just the one person we confided in that, we might have needed help and support from. But if we're feeling alone and unsupported, then sometimes we don't make decisions under pressure and with a lot of anxiety and with nowhere else to turn. People then realise that, they had nowhere to turn and have made a decision, but they carry the guilt themselves. And I think this is where a lot of women today are really stuck and trapped. So this really, I think, is the crux of the issue, and where Hope Alive is the only program I know where, like I said earlier, it's been measured and proven that once you can deal with these sorts of things, once you can come to certain realisations and awarenesses that, actually I wasn't on my own, there were other people who could have helped me, and you can't carry all that blame yourself. Suddenly life really does start looking a lot better.
So the program itself informs people about what hope looks like. It has a substance. It's analysed, and it's measurable.
That's very true, and I think even in terms of the fact that it's measurable, where studies are taken prior to someone taking part in Hope Alive, then people's feelings and how they're travelling are checked and monitored. We would do evaluations, how we were feeling, how we were progressing. Those sorts of things are checked initially with a doctor and perhaps psychologist or counsellor if a person has one. And then, of course, during the program, the facilitator, the psychologist who's overseeing the program, fully qualified people, they must keep check that people are travelling okay. And then, of course, at completion of the program, and then, of course, follow-up, even 12 months afterwards. There's few things in life, I think, where such care is taken and where there's such really intricate care and insight. I was going to say oversight, but insight for the person themselves, but also knowing that they are supported the whole way through. And this is really groundbreaking for people who, the whole reason they're doing Hope Alive is they were originally unsupported in their personal circumstances. So opportunities, for where consent needs to be given. Consent is a huge issue because every opportunity along the way is an opportunity for things to turn out differently. And if we are given all of the information, if we are informed that there are even supports, they may not necessarily be, say we've gone to, someone in the hospital system, we have an unplanned pregnancy. Then we're at a major turning point in life where the advice or the support we're given or the suggestion that is made to us, that is really a turning point in our life. So if there's only one suggestion given, and that is, how do you feel about this? Do you want to keep this pregnancy? Or even as I've had said too, gee, you've already got a couple of children, what do you want to do? I didn't find those sort of suggestions helpful. And it planted a seed in my mind that wouldn't have even been there. So I think it's really important that doctors, nurses and midwives also understand their role, because otherwise we're needing to, search amongst like a needle in the haystack to find something as precious as this program.
So you have spoken to others about it, those in key positions?
Oh yes, I have. I've provided copies of this very program, the fact that it is a scientific study, the fact that it is proven, it's published, Bentham I think publishes, you can access it online. You can also access it on the Hope Alive Australia website too. Or if you look for the name Professor Philip G. Ney, in Mount Joy College, Canada. It's very easy to access. So disappointing that I haven't heard any feedback so far. I hope that people are investigating, and I know these things can't happen overnight, but I have been to people in local hospital networks, psychologists.
All right, Denise, we'll hold that thought. You're watching Support Life, and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm Gavin Bolt and my guest is Denise den-Bakker. Denise, we were kind of suggesting that there are outcomes if people bother to commit to a program like this. What are you suggesting in particular women should be active in? Yeah,
it's a really good question, and that's why I'm taking my time in answering it too. There's a lot of problem, I think, with awareness, and that's where doing a program like Hope Alive is really important, because sometimes when people have been living in troubled and probably compounding traumatic instances, sometimes life can become so difficult that it's hard to actually realise that their life isn't okay. And once again, being in the group situation where you're journeying with other people, sometimes it becomes apparent that life wasn't meant to be like this. And for people who've been having a difficult time, and perhaps who might have had earlier experiences, it might be all they've ever known. There might have been childhood abuse, all different kinds, whether it was violence or perhaps sexual abuse. It then makes it difficult to realise that women are then going into similar kinds of instances. People can tend to repeat and not realise that they're repeating tragedy, former tragedies in their own life. And it might feel comfortable, it might feel okay, only because it's circumstances or perhaps personality traits in people that they are used to. Some people might say it sort of feels like home, but if home has been a troubled place, then it's not really a good place to be. So while this program works towards reconciliation where that is possible, and there is an element of that, writing letters of reconciliation once we've understood what's happened, it's really important for women to realise too that there may be a time for goodbyes. And that is another element of this program, where once we've realised that there have been certain things happen in our life that weren't good and were actually very damaging for us, sometimes we need to realise that we actually need to get up and leave. And a really wonderful part of this program is role plays. And I would have to say a turning point in my life too would be when Dr. Nay actually facilitated a role play, and he was in that with me and helped me to realise that perhaps I wasn't being listened to, and that really has been a turning point. Sometimes we can accept the way people treat us, and while the people who are doing it may not have intended it to be that way, and unfortunately they may have been mistreated themselves, but then back in the present, it's actually happening and it's not okay. So we attempt to reconcile and we work through ways in which we can do that. But then if there isn't an attempt to change and work towards healing and making life better, we work out and work through steps, a step at a time. We can work through a way where we go, or we might actually say to ourselves, I realise this isn't good, this is damaging me further, and I may even be in danger. So we might have to realise it's time for a good goodbye, and we may need to move on. We may need to even ask for help. And sometimes people are staying in situations where they really do need to ask for help. But if you haven't been accustomed to having help and you haven't had that kind of support or someone there for you, then you may not even know that you need it. So
I know
Ask for help.
as an only child, which I am, I never learnt to use the phrase or comment, oh, I need some help, because you were alone and you just did it, you got on with it. And even in married life sometimes I forget to ask for help. It's already there, willingly wanting to help.
Yes.
It's not part of my vocabulary.
Yes. And that's where it's really important. And again, I might sound a little bit over the top in terms of being grateful for this program, but to say how life-changing it is incredible, because in doing role plays with other people, you actually not only develop language for what you need to do for your own life, but then you reverse the roles too. So I could be sitting in the other seat and being Gavin, and then realising your perspective. You're telling me about something that happened to you, then I would take on your role. And there's something really amazing that takes place when we realise the circumstances a person might have been in. When we actually speak the words and then we learn to do it more and more, and we do more and more of the role plays, we write more and more letters about what has happened to us, and we can actually say, you hurt me when. We have to be aware of that before we can actually say it. As we develop the language for these things, by writing it, by doing the role plays with each other, then we can actually affect some sort of change. And then, all of a sudden too, we find a voice within ourselves. We're also able to inspire others, because we're starting to use words and language that people haven't understood, people haven't heard before, and they may not even understand. Like you say, in a marriage, the person might be there close to us, wanting to help, wanting to do something, wanting to reach us. But if we haven't developed the language and connected with them, how can that ever happen?
So it's too easy to make assumptions that someone won't understand me.
Yes.
When there might be a listening ear, if we can find the words to say it. So we're coming back to 101 in communication, aren't we?
Very much so.
How do you tackle that a little bit? The communication, the role play does it. Do you have some social time as well, where you're free in a non-constructed environment?
Yes, well, there's some of the features too of Hope Alive, because it's extremely non-threatening. You're very well nourished as well, and although that might seem almost a flippant kind of thing to say, sometimes in normal life where we're so rushed and so forth, we don't even realise we're not nourishing ourselves in many ways, but with food. So.
Well, it sounds like a great program to be fed well and to grow with hope. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
You've been watching Support Life. That's all for our program today. Join us again next week. Goodbye.